Okay, ESPN 93.5, research debunks advertising's oldest myth that sex sells. Marketing specialist, runs a marketing agency, specializes in brand strategy. It's Lindsey Harrison. How are you?
Hi. I'm great. How are you?
I'm fabulous. I love talking to you.
One of my favorite radio stations. I always love it.
Okay, so I thought that I was seeing all this subliminal stuff in the vodka ads in the magazines that have all these sexual images. So what do you mean sex doesn't sell?
No, guys, I think that this study is kind of laughable, if I'm honest. I don't agree with it at all. And doing this for as long as I've been doing it, I would still say that sex sells. Now, it might be different than what we're thinking of the half-naked person on a tobacco product, like it started in 1871. But I think that you're still going to see that sex sells, whether it's what I think of somebody that is sexy or Stevie who you think somebody's sexy. It still brings something up inside of us, and we pay attention to it. Well,
let me just say this. This is just how ancient I am when I used to see the Carl's commercials, the burgers with these scantily clad women in bikinis. Yep. I mean, my first thought was, get some clothes on. You're going to catch cold. Come on.
She's washing the car.
I have never, ever gone out and bought a Carl's burger, and I never will. I refuse. I stand in protest.
Okay.
But your
take again, that might not be your style of sexy, and that's okay.
But really, people see this burger and all the mess it makes, like everything falling out, and this woman that doesn't have appropriate clothing on, and they're going to run out and go through the drive-thru?
I think that ad is a bit aggressive, and they have definitely taken that back, and they're actually not showing those types of ads anymore. I do think that we have evolved in a certain manner in the fact of, again, you're not going to have somebody that is half naked on something, but even the implying of an angle of the neck or something when it comes to an ankle and showing that, it arises this. I mean, we have evolved, but we're not getting away from the oldest part of our brain that's responsible for survival. And the three things for that is food, danger, and sex. I mean, those are in our subconscious mind, and we're not getting away from it. No matter how we slice it, it's just something that's inside of us. It's human nature.
Lindsey, how do you keep up with all the ways to market?
You know, just like anybody else in any other profession, as long as you are in it and as long as you're doing it on a daily basis and you are wanting to learn about it, then it's ever-changing, but I do it all day, every day. Yeah. And not that I'm perfected at it, but anything that you do all day, every day, you have an upper hand on somebody that doesn't.
This is a very skilled person, my friends. Lindsey Harrison, how do people find you?
Definitely. So our website is www.it, I as in igloo, T as in Thomas, crowd like a crowd of people, marketing.com, and we're out of Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, and you know what the person wants. The client wants response. They want return on investment. They want to sell stuff, and you understand that, and that's why you've been so successful.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not telling you that the end game is going to be sex when it comes to your product, but there are different tactics that you can use, whether it's sex, whether it's humor, whether it's pulling on somebody's heartstrings, and making sure that your marketing team knows what it is that your target demographic and being able to help you with that's key.
Yeah, and I think, too, we sometimes gloss over how important the messaging and the content of the message is and how sometimes you have to craft the words as opposed to get it done, put it away, and go to the next one.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. You're the best, Lindsey. Let's chat again.
Guys, thanks so much. Talk soon.
All right. Lindsey Harrison is her name down in Dallas.
ITcloudmarketing.com.
She's very, very good at all that digital stuff as well. We had her on a while back. I really like her. She's been very successful at it as well in Dallas. She has some big clients.
We've all heard that old adage, sex sells, but does it really? New research is suggesting that sex does make an ad a little bit more memorable, but...
Well, Lindsey Harrison runs a marketing agency that specializes in brand strategy. So, Lindsey, does sex actually sell?
I'm going to have to continue to say that I think that it does.
Okay, because the new research says that people who've seen the spots are not more likely to recall the actual brands or products.
Right. So I saw this study as well, and I started looking into a little bit more of what had happened with this study. And I don't have all of the answers when it comes to the nitty-gritty of the study, but I know that in marketing you have to see an ad, whether it targets sex appeal, whether it targets humor, or if you're pulling on your heartstrings, if that's the tactic that's being used. You have to see that product or that ad 8 times before anything starts to register in your head to make a buying decision. I don't know if that happened with this study.
Now, okay, what about the difference between men and women? Would sex sell for men more than women?
Well, I think that that's a given, yes. Depending on what it is that your product is that you're trying to sell, if you're going after a male demographic, then I think that that's definitely still a tactic. Now, when it comes to the traditional sex of maybe a half-naked person on a soda pop, I don't know if that's exactly what it is that we're going for anymore, but I think that maybe it's more of, does sexy sell? And my definition of sexy is probably going to be different than your definition of sexy. And being able to know what that demographic is to be able to sell your product, I think it's definitely still something that works.
You know, I remember there was a hamburger chain, and I'll leave them out of the equation, but they had women in bikinis rolling around on cars with this big messy hamburger. And do you know that I have not wanted one of those since I saw those commercials? And it's not because of it's not because I'm offended or anything else. I'm not interested.
Right. And again, for you, that wasn't something that was interesting to you. Now, for me, if we go back to the Super Bowl commercials, because everyone talks about Super Bowl commercials for years to come, one of the commercials that was there was the buy drink. And I don't know if you remember it or not, but it panned in on the drink, and then it panned out, and you saw Justin Timberlake, and he was dressed in a suit with a bow tie, and he had a smirk on his face, and then all of a sudden it had one of his songs of Bye, Bye, Bye on it, and the drink popped up. Now, I laughed at that commercial. And then I looked at Justin Timberlake, and really anything that you put him on, I'm going to buy. But I didn't automatically go down to the store and buy that product. But the next time that I was there and I saw that product, I remembered that ad, and that was the one that I chose. And so, again, it might not be the fact that that was sexy to you, but something is sexy to you, which will make you remember things.
All right, Lindsey, thank you very much. That is Lindsey Harrison, who runs a marketing agency that specializes in brand strategy.
Right now, I want to talk about something that we've always heard sells. We're talking about sex. It's the 4-letter word with only 3, S-E-X. And when it comes to marketing, it's just a foregone conclusion. Does it really sell, though? Certainly, it can titillate. It can arouse, it can get your attention, but does it actually sell? There's some new research suggesting that sex makes ads very memorable, but the people who see the spots aren't really any more likely to remember the actual brand or product advertised than those who had seen something that was a lot less risque. Let's talk about it this morning here with marketing specialist and an expert in brand strategy, Lindsey Harrison, who's on the other end of our line. Lindsey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Sex sells, that's always been taken as just a given. But there's some research here that was done by the University of Illinois and Ball State that says maybe not. What's your take on that?
You know what? As I was doing some research for talking about this, being in marketing, yeah, we've always heard that sex sells. And honestly, I'm now seeing, with all of the controversy of going back and forth, I think that this has become more of the topic of, does sex actually sell, yes or no, than the actual topic. And I think that you're going to still have to go back to, my opinion is yes, it does.
All right, as opposed to trying something. But their research said that people were just as likely to remember. You always want to have people remember your product or your service, of course. And you want to have it, hopefully, done in a favorable way. But first of all, remember it, and then get on to the idea of whether you think it's good or not. But they say that the PG versions did the same job. You're not buying it?
I'm not buying it. Now, granted, I don't know exactly what it is that these people were shown. There was a lot of them. But even implying sex with an angle of the neck or maybe even the ankle, that could still be considered a PG version, but you're still getting the same feeling inside. I mean, evolution in the oldest part of our brain that's responsible for survival, we're not getting away from that. We're not getting away from food, danger, and sex. And those are the three things that drive humans. No matter how far away or how evolved we think that we've become, I'm just not buying the fact that it doesn't have some sort of arousal inside of us. Now, my definition of sexy might be different than yours. You put Dwayne Johnson without a shirt on anything, and I'm buying it. But that might not be something that that you look at and go, yep, I'm going to do.
Yeah, probably not. So, all right, I get where you're going with that. But isn't there a certain point, too? Well, now then you have to take gender into the equation, right? You know,
you definitely do.
Does sex sell better with men and product dependent than it does with women? Because I think there are times with guys where things cloud over in our minds. And we may be, you can say that sex in an ad sells, but at the moment of, let's say, decision time, if I'm reaching for a condom, do I care which brand it is at this particular point, or am I just reaching for whatever's handy because the moment has arrived? And when I'm watching the ad, and some of those are, they're kind of smirky and suggestive. When it's, just it is what it is. I don't know about that. I just wonder if it's different between guys and gals.
Well, I definitely think that it's different between guys and gals, but think about this as well. So you talk about going, and does it actually change your buying decision? We are in the era of the restaurants, and you talk about three guys that are going, hey, where do we want to eat today? Are we going to go down the street to the burger joint that's a normal burger joint, or are we going to go over to Twin Peaks? And I can almost guarantee you that 90% of the time, these guys are going over to Twin Peaks. I mean, there's a reason why we are in this era of you see restaurants all over the place. Now, Hooters is changing, quote-unquote, changing what it is that they are looking at doing, and they're now hiring males. Well, I guarantee you that those males aren't going to be unattractive males. They're now just going after a different demographic, hopefully, and seeing that a female wants to come there and enjoy the food and enjoy what they're looking at.
I just thought Twin Peaks was a restaurant that celebrated, was kind of an homage to the early 90s television show, and that's soon coming out again on, I think, Netflix or Showtime. I don't know. That's what I always thought. Maybe something mountain-oriented, but apparently I'm wrong. Okay. I guess I get it with the branding, but I do wonder if sometimes if it's pushed so much and becomes over the top, that it could be counterproductive to the brand. And you know the kind of ads I'm talking about.
And I completely agree with you. I think that there is definitely a fine line. But, I mean, let's talk about the Super Bowl, backtracking the Super Bowl this last year. A lot of those are pretty subdued, but one of the commercials that comes to my mind is the buy drink. And it pans out on Justin Timberlake, who is fully clothed in actually a suit and tie or bow tie.
Right.
And his song starts coming up of buy, buy, buy. Well, I didn't jump up and then go and buy this drink. However, the next time I was in the grocery store, and it was accessible to me because it was in the the part of the refrigerator that is right next to where you check out, and I see that, and I see water, and I see all these other things. Bye, bye, bye comes up, and then I see a picture of Justin Timberlake in my head and go, like it, I'll take that. So I think that I think that things are changing.
It worked. I mean,
works.
you connected one with the other, and that's a huge jump for a lot of people.
And that 100% is what marketing does. And so I don't think that you can say sex doesn't sell anymore. That's saying that humor doesn't sell anymore. That's saying that pulling on somebody's heartstrings doesn't sell anymore. It's a tactic that we use, and it definitely works. Now, granted, there have to be other things that are used with it. We are taught that you have to see an ad or have that ad in presence at least 8 times for you to actually make a buying decision. So in this market research of 17,000 people, were they shown this ad 8 times to where they would actually want to go and do something? I don't know. I think that there are a lot of things that you have to look at, but I think it's absolutely ludicrous to say that sex or what you consider to be sexy doesn't sell anymore. It doesn't make sense to me.
Lindsey Harrison, she's marketing specialist and runs an agency that specializes in brand strategy. Okay, so you guys going to be going. Do any of your current ads or clients deal in sexy ads or ads that are aimed at that kind of mind click?
100%. We have a lot of aesthetic types of products. I have a client right now that they go after men's testosterone, and that's what we go after is the sex appeal of men's testosterone injections and how you're going to feel after that and what you're going to be able to do after that. There's another product that's down here. They're not my client, but I think it's genius. It's called Men's Dentistry, and they have taken the appeal of going to the dentist is sexy. And I think it's fantastic. Their ads are great. Who would have thought going to the dentist would be a sexy thing? But they're getting a new demographic in the doors.
Wow. Lindsey, I appreciate you joining us today very much.
Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the day.
Yep, you too. Morning Wake Up will continue. It's an interesting viewpoint. The study is out. University of Illinois in the Big Ten, Ball State, UC Davis, they did it. She says, yeah, interesting. It's bunk. 1320 WILS.
721 Bloom Daddy with you on your Thursday morning, 1-800-624-1170. So when it comes to advertising, we've all heard sex sells, but does it really? Marketing specialist Lindsey Harrison joining me now. Lindsey, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so you have some new research out there. 17,000 consumers were, I guess, involved in this, primarily in the U.S., but this new research suggesting that sex makes ads more memorable, but doesn't necessarily prompt people to go out and buy whatever's being advertised. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what the study was. I have read it. But while the times are changing, I think that advertising is changing as well. But I don't think that you can go as far as saying, does sex not sell anymore? Maybe it's does sexy sell? And I think that that's probably the case.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest with you, Lindsey. I've never wanted a hamburger as bad as I did after seeing a Carl's Jr. ad. So to me, sex does matter. It does help sell. But this is saying kind of just the opposite. I mean, is the country tired of marketing gimmicks that objectify women?
Well, I definitely think that, yes, that is the case, but I don't think that you're ever going to get away from the fact that the oldest part of your brain that is responsible for survival, there are 3 things that are part of it: food, danger, and sex. And, we're just not going to get away from that. So whether we think that we're smarter than that, there's always something that's going to come up in our system when we see something that we think is sexy. We're also going to, that's what marketing is. So you have humor. That's also another tactic. You also have pulling at somebody's heartstrings. So no matter how smart we get and no matter how far away we get from objectifying women, I still think that you're going to have something that stirs in people when they see something that maybe it's not something that's been objectifying of a woman, but maybe it's something that they see that they consider to be sexy.
What about ads that objectify men? Are those just as bad, or is there a double standard in marketing?
I think that there's probably a double standard. There's a double standard in life. So, I definitely think that there's a double standard when it comes to that. But again, you're still going to see things like when over the Super Bowl, you had a lot of commercials that were no longer doing really, really sexy type of ads. But in my mind, there was a commercial for a product called Bai, and Bai is a drink. And for me, Justin Timberlake is as sexy as anything else that comes out.
Oh, what's wrong with you, Lindsey?
So for me, there was humor in that. But
Right.
then there was also, I mean, he didn't have his shirt taken off. I mean, he was in a suit and he barely even talked. But for me, I actually went down and bought one of those drinks. So yet again, I just don't know if, I think that we have changed from maybe hamburgers being sold by girls in bikinis with big breasts. I still think that the sexy side of things is something that's going to sell.
We're talking to marketing specialist. She runs a marketing agency that specializes in brand strategy, Lindsey Harrison. Lindsey, even Hooters is experimenting with a new concept that departs from strategy they've been using since they opened their first restaurant in 1983. So what can we take away from that?
Well, yeah, no, I completely agree that they are, but they're also not changing the name.
True. That is true.
So, I mean, how far, you can say that things are changing, but I think that you're always going to get back to you're going to have somebody walk in, and if I have somebody walk into, think about medical sales reps. They usually are people that can speak well, that look nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
They go out and they sell things.
Well,
right?
One of the people with this survey, Lindsey, said we found literally zero effect on participants' intention to buy products and ads with a sexual appeal. This assumption that sex sells, well, no, according to our study, it doesn't. There's no indication that there's a positive effect. What about the odds that some of these people just weren't honest? Because I don't believe this survey. I don't believe it at all. I mean, I think sex sells 100%.
I agree. I don't believe the survey either. So in marketing, we are taught that somebody has to look at something and has to be seen 8 times. And I can tell you that I don't know if in that survey they were shown something 8 times in order for them to want to remember something and want to buy something.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were shown something 1 time and then they were shown another ad 1 time, that actually doesn't do anything for the human brain.
So let me ask you this. If somebody out there has a product that they want to sell, what would be your best advice to them as in how to do that?
Well, I would use one of the marketing tactics. So you're going to have to use either humor, you're going to have to pull on somebody's heartstrings, or you're going to have to use sex. Whether it's sex or sexy or whatever it is that you decide that needs to look like. Then you need to make sure that there's repetition based on that too. So somebody needs to see your product at least 8 times in order to be able to start seeing results in sales.
You know, as you're saying this, I have a TV, a flat screen in my studio, and I'm watching Fox News. And I think Fox News is a prime example. I mean, all the news out there, it's delivered in different ways, but it's all the same news, okay? But Fox News, to me, is number one, not so much because of the conservative message. It's because the women on there are frickin' gorgeous. I mean, I'm being serious. And that goes to your line about, drug reps and other things. I mean, the bottom line is we in America, what we find visually appealing, we gravitate to, right?
Exactly. And again, that doesn't have to be your idea of what is sexy might not be my idea of what's sexy, but 100% sexy sells.
I mean, that makes sense. And as you said, Hooters isn't changing their name anytime soon, right?
Correct.
Lindsey, thanks for your time, hon.
Thanks. Have a great day.
All right, you too. That's Lindsey Harrison, marketing specialist.